Yeah, it's about time you got out of bed or wherever you were. Okay, here I am for another live tri-mulcast broadcast. I was told to say that, tri-mulcast, meaning that simultaneously this broadcast is simultaneously Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter Live, or X Live, or whatever they call it, XYZ, I don't know. Elon tried to call his kid X, and then, they scrambled their fingers over the keyboard and came up with, question marks and exclamation points and all, these special characters for one of his kids' first names, which seems kind of ridiculous, but, who am I to say? So, welcome to sunny Boca Raton. You can look down here. You see right down here? That number, 74.3. That's the degrees outside our patio. It's 57% humidity. Inside our studio, it's 67 degrees. A little chilly in here. And 50% relative humidity. There's one thing about our central system, which is private. We don't circulate our air around the building with everybody else. We have our own air, so to speak. I don't know what goes on in the ceilings and everything, but with the ductwork and everything, it's a closed system. The Freon system is self-contained. The way the condenser coils, which usually are like on an outside on a house or an office building, whatever, that's where the hot air blows. Inside's the cold air and outside's the hot air. And what's happening is the Freon is absorbing heat from the air inside, and then it's the heat is then transferred to outside. That's why when you put your hand over the coils of the outdoor unit, that's blowing. Those are air-cooled coils, and the ambient air becomes hot air, from the outside. So the ambient air was 70, the air coming out on top of that thing, maybe 75. So there's a 5-degree temperature change as the air comes in the coils and goes up through the fan, whatever. So anyway, with the air conditioners that they have in this building, the condenser coils, the coils that are outside, are actually go through a copper pipe. So it's water cooled instead of air cooled. So therefore that water is warmed, and that water is then circulated up on the roof to a cooling tower, which then cools down that water that has become warmed about 5 degrees, by the way. Of course, I've mentioned, I've measured the temperature, of the water coming in, because you can feel the pipes. The water comes in at 80 degrees and it goes out at about 84 degrees. So there's about a 4-degree temperature change in the temperature of the water when I measured the actual copper pipe. So that's, I don't know how fast that water is circulating, but it is circulating. And it goes up to the tower and then comes back down at 80 degrees, and then it gets warmed to 84, and then goes back. And that's it's a closed system. So it's water over these condenser coils instead of air over the condenser coils. It's actually a lot more efficient in grabbing heat out of those condenser coils. You got air over, you got fins and all this stuff, Because if you look at the coils on the outside, they got all kinds of aluminum fins all over that copper to try to increase the surface area of the heat exchange outside. Anyway, these are water over coils, and it's a sealed system of water that goes up into the cooling tower and all that. Anyway, so that's how our air conditioner works, and it's 67.6. It's I should really redo that thermostat thing. So Monday through Friday, the ambient temperature in our apartment is like, how about 71 instead of 67? That's a little chilly. And, I'm wondering how come it's like, geez, am I getting that old that, sitting in a room here? It's, it's like a studio in NBC. It's 67 degrees. The talent shall not perspire. Well, I guarantee you, Jimmy's not perspiring. He's a little bit chilly. So we'll save a little energy, I can go in there and change those settings so that, because I have a very sophisticated thermostat that can take all kinds of commands, and I work it right through my phone. I'll do it another time. But anyway, that can be done. And it will be done. As soon as I get off the air here, if I can remember, I'm going to change those settings so that Monday through Friday, it's, from, let's say, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., it's like 71. And then, because Marilyn likes the cold, it was like 68 degrees. We're sitting in the living room. I said, well, so does the temperature feel okay in here? She said, yeah. I said, does it feel a little cool? She said, not really. I said, okay, let me go get my jacket. Not really. That was the jacket part I didn't say. But actually, I feel just a little bit chilly right now. Yeah. Anyway, today is the anniversary of my first social contact with Marilyn Murray 44 years ago at about 8:45 p.m., I would say. It was after 8 and before 9. So I guess at 8:45. I actually don't know the exact time, but it was after 8 and it was before 9. Because in this cocktail party that I was at, celebrating these 25 students graduating from our advanced executive Royal Trust Bank, training, I guess we'd call it. Anyway, they locked us up in the Sheridan Rivergate, I think they called it. It was a hotel right connected to the airport. I don't know whether it was inside the boundary or outside the boundary. It was right there. And, the students flew in. They went to the Sheridan Rivergate. They checked in with their rooms, and they got their badges and all this stuff. And then, Monday afternoon, we all convened for our first meeting. And, so I went, and everyone was in the class. Participation. I had a half-day session. There were 8 of us that had half-day sessions. And a very, very good group of facilitators, I think is the appropriate HR word for that. I'm a real estate guy. What do I know? Facilitate? What does that mean? Does that mean gardening? Or what? No, I knew what I meant. But, this HR people have very, very careful words. Anyway, so you have participants and you have facilitators. Marilyn was one of the participants. I remember the time I was with her 44 years ago. I remember when we first met. I remember how we first met. She sat down, at the kind of at the end of this cocktail. During the classes, I really didn't. Sorry to say, I really didn't take notice of Marilyn. Everybody. I didn't take notice of any of the students actually. Particularly, like single them out and kind of like watch them or anything. No, I didn't. I was more interested in the facilitators, making sure that they did whatever I needed to have done to make my class successful. Hold up charts and, give me pointers and, pointing devices, whatever. But after the senior executives that flew in from Canada handed out diplomas to these, I'll say 25 or 30 participants that flew in from all over the state of Florida. We had like 35 banks, 34 banks, I think is the number. And they stayed all week. And then at the end of the thing, okay, flight 2979, to Tampa, you have to get down to the shuttle so we can take you to your terminal. And then like 5 people would leave, the cocktail reception that followed the handing out of the diplomas. And the group got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And finally, it was just one table of 3 and another table of 4 over there. And that table of 4 got up because flight 2979 going to Jacksonville, Florida is now boarding on gate 27. So they'd run off to their things, grab their bags and all that stuff. And so Marilyn was left by herself. So she came over to sit at our table because we had one empty seat to my right. So it was me over here. This is the empty seat where Marilyn, she came over and sat here. And then Jill Thagard was across from me. And then Karen Brown was over here on this side. Head of personnel, treasury management, empty seat. Marilyn came over. I'm sitting here. And the 3 of us, then Marilyn came down and because I've seen her on the 4th floor of our building, over and over and over again. But, because she walks right by my office and it's all glass offices. So she's unavoidably attractive, I have to say. She lights up a room when she shows up, I can tell you that. So when the elevator doors open up and she come into the 4th floor, everybody look over and see Marilyn's happy face. And it was just a feast for sore eyes, as they say. Anyway, so I finally, the first time in my entire life, had a one-on-one personal, with the 4 of us, conversation, and then, hi, how are you? And then we chit-chat around and all this kind of stuff around the table with Karen Brown and Jill Thagard and Marilyn Murray and myself. And we chit-chatted, and then around 10:15 or so, Karen Brown and Jill Thagard, who rode together in their car, they said, if you don't mind, could we, because all the wine glasses were down to like the last half-inch of wine in the glass. And the 2 of them got up and said, may we leave? And they left and excused themselves and shook hands or hugged or whatever we did. Don't remember that part. And I looked over at Marilyn. I said, would you like to stay for another glass of wine? And Marilyn said, well, yes. So I had another wine. She had another wine. And we were yakking away until like midnight. We had 2 hours of, unstoppable conversation. Trading information about our lives and and our interests, and and we made friends on the phone. I mean, live, right there. Live and in color. And so at about midnight, we decided to hang it up, because we both had to drive home because we were local, South Florida residents. So I said, well, will you be okay driving home, at this hour of the night? And so she said, yeah. And may I call you a car, or you're going to be fine? She said, no, I can drive. I said, well, drive carefully. So I said, well, let me walk you out to the car, because it is midnight and, it is a parking lot, and I don't want you, someone to grab you or something or other. So would it be okay if I walked you out to your car? So I walked her out, through all the lobbies and all this stuff, elevator up and elevator down, and we finally get out to the parking lot on the ground floor of wherever, and walked her out to the, around, and saw her to her car. Gave her a little kiss goodnight. And I said, would it be okay if I called you at 10 o'clock Monday morning and for lunch plans? I'll tell you where we'll meet and so forth. She said, that'd be wonderful. So I said, fine, I'll call you at 10 o'clock. And I'll tell you what I have in mind for our lunch plans. So that's what happened. I went home, she went home, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, I said, Marilyn, we're going to go to the Charade for lunch. Would that be okay in Coral Gables? I'll pick you up at the bottom of your building, at the, the main doors of your building. She worked in a building next to my building, but she worked in what is known as the tower. And we worked in a building that was not a tower. It was only like 4 or 5 stories tall. If I had to guess, I'd say 4 stories tall. But Maryland's, you could look up, it's like 20-something stories. And I forget what floor she worked on. It wasn't the top floor, like floor 17, 14, it was up in the teens somewhere. In at least a 20-story office building. It might have been 24 floors. It was definitely more than the teens. And so I picked her up. I called her at exactly 10. I looked at my watch. I said, okay, it's time to call Marilyn. So I called her. And I think I asked her for her phone number, yeah? Her direct number to her desk, and she gave it to me. Maybe even gave me a card. I don't have the card, or I don't know where it is, but anyway, so I called her. Maybe it was an extension, because we're all in the same, universe here of South Florida World Trust. It's a big bank. $35 billion like a boy. $35 billion worth of assets under administration is the technical term for that. And this is 44 years ago. So as of February 22nd, 44 years ago. Woo. Wow. That's 1980, by the way. February 22nd, 1980 at 8:45 p.m. was the beginning of the rest of our lives. Because after that lunch, we had lunch, and then I called her at like 4 in the afternoon. I said, so what are you doing this evening? Would you like to have dinner? She said, why, certainly. I said, well, fine. We're going to have dinner at the Crêpe Saint Michel. Would that be okay? She said, I don't know if I've been there. I said, marvelous. I'll pick you up at 5 o'clock. Picked her up at 5. We went to Crêpe Saint Michel, which is a marvelous little place. Right on Alhambra. It's right in Coral Gables. Stephen Bornstein was the owner of the Great Saint Michel, and Stephen Bornstein. And we financed, meaning the real estate department, financed the building, not the restaurant, the building. He decided to buy the whole building, and would we finance it? I said, that's a yes. So you can go ahead and commit to whatever you had to commit to, because that is a done deal. Just give me your personal financial statement, sign it and date it, get it over to me, and we'll, write you a commitment letter. And that was a done deal. He bought it for like $750,000, and it was worth like $6 million. It was like, really? It's an authentic building in downtown Coral Gables. And he said, Jimmy, and Tony Romeo and my boss, Bob Curtis, we're all friends. I call him my boss, but he was my boss. But we never. If I called him my boss or his boss, he would be furious, because we're much more personal than that. But he supervised me, and so to speak, because I was a challenge. I'm sure. Yeah, I was an active participant in whatever we were doing, and I would offer advice whether or not asked for. Yeah, no, I was a good. These guys taught me everything I know. So, yeah, it was a marvelous working relationship. Anyway, so Tony Romeo, Bob Curtis, and myself are like probably the three of the three best real estate persons in South Florida. There are lots of others, but we were definitely good at what we did. And I'm told by others. Anyway, so Stephen Bornstein, the three of us are having lunch at Great Saint Michel one day, and he says, you think you guys would finance this building if I bought it? And I guess Bob Curtis, we let him talk, because he's the head banana. So, I kept my mouth shut. I figured, okay, let Bob talk, And Bob said, oh, yeah, just what I said, get your financial statement out and sign it and date it, and we'll, one of these guys will take it through we'll sign off on what we have to sign off paperwork-wise, and we'll write you a commitment letter so you got your deal in case we get in a car wreck. Unlikely. Anyway, so he bought the building, for $750,000, and we funded it, and he bought that building for $750,000. It's probably worth $20 million today, or more, And Stewart started to peel down some of the ceiling, because the owner, because he was like a tenant in the building, and then he bought the building. Well, after he bought the building, he wanted to renovate the building inside, so he renovated the apartments. There were like 50. It was a 54-room boutique. What do you call it? Hotel. It was a hotel. Five or six stories. I forget which. 5, 6, 7, something like that. Not a real big, tall building, but it was an authentic. It had one of these things, with the gate. You close the gate, and then you have this big letter. You zoom back and forth, and then pull it back to your floor. And these DC motors, grind you up to your level. It's not hydraulic. It was pulleys and all this stuff. So he had people in there, going through all the electronics and updating it, and making sure the contacts were all clean and all the brass was perfectly polished, and and bright, where it wasn't under the the owner of the building. And then, so he made that, so it was all authentic stuff. I mean, it was, built in the, early 1900s. Anyway, so then he started peeling out the ceilings just to, he took out, he's up there on a real tall ladder, bagging on the ceiling, getting through the plaster to see, is there anything, even more authentic about the ceilings that I can show off? And I'll be damned, he peels out the ceiling, and I said, Jimmy, look at that. I said, oh my God, what is it? So he took the ceiling down carefully, and above it, like 2 feet above it. So, it was like a 12-foot ceiling, but it was really a 14-foot ceiling. But the whole ceiling was like mosaic, the most beautiful, flowers or whatever. And down the walls, it was like, they covered it up with plaster. I mean, they didn't plaster right on it. They had like a false ceiling and covering up all this amazing, Coral Gables original architecture, artwork that was put up by somebody. It wasn't signed work, but it was just spectacular. So he renovated that place. He used proceeds from the, a lot of people don't want to stay in these big old modern hotels. They're private and they just want a place where they can like get away and not be seen by, media and all that kind of stuff. So a 54, I think it was 54 room private hotel, in Coral Gables is exactly where, a lot of private people would go if they knew it existed. So, I mean, it was a great lunch and dinner spot. The Crepe Saint Michel was also owned by Stuart Bornstein. I think it is even today. Anyway, so that's where Mel and I had our first dinner 44 years ago. So now we have to decide. I have to call her back. It's 1:30. Jeez, time flies. I have to call her back to see if she really wants to go out tonight because it's February 22nd. Or do we want to figure a couple of leap years and go Friday night or Saturday night? Maybe Saturday night instead of tonight. So because she works till 5 and then she got to get home. It's 5:20 and that. So instead of having to leave, her bank early, which I'd rather have her not do, so we could get to a place on time. We can go like Saturday. And that way, we have time to get ourselves, make reservations someplace, and, get there and not have to beat the crowds and so forth. I'd like to solicit from her some ideas of where to go so I can make reservations, because I think we should have reservations, even if we get there at 5:00. I'd like to, just have a reservation somewhere. So, in case it's, full for some reason, I'm sorry, you don't have a reservation. I'm sorry, we're booked until Wednesday. I don't want to hear that either. So, that's what I'm going to request. I'll send her a text. See what she says. So, I've begun the process of going through the Tesla seamless experience of turning in the 3-year leased car and leasing another one, a new one, same color, white interior instead of black. That's about the only change. We have a black one now. We're going to get a new black one. And I said, well, how about black and white? And she said, okay, I'll go with the white interior. I said, it's just like that. There's a car parked next to me is exactly, except his is like dark gray or something. She'd rather have jet black. So with black and the white interior, white leather material, leatherette, some kind of. It's like the seats in the, in the space capsules that SpaceX makes. It's the same exact seat. They engineered those seats so they were perfectly comfortable for their astronauts when they blast off. And he said, let's put those seats in our cars. Let's put those seats in all our cars. No exceptions. No cheap seats. Everybody gets a seat, just like you're in one of our space capsules. I mean, Elon is, he's, he doesn't pull the board. He just, he just does it. And everyone says, yes, sir. And they run around and they engineered this seat. I mean, they took some time engineering the seat for the space capsules. And Elon said, those seats go in all our cars, front and back. No exceptions. All the cars. Not just the premium cars. Every car. So the white material is the same white material that's in the space capsules. And it, stuff doesn't rub off on it. Like if you got blue jeans on it and you sit in those seats, the blue jean doesn't rub off. I'm told. I've read stories to that effect. Anyway, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, so I'm going through the procedures, to get, here's the car. My latest, you see where it says, you can see there, this is the price of the car. See $25.50? What is that called? Price adjustment. I don't want that to disappear because this panel says price adjustment and this panel, that one says it too. But I looked at something else. That one says it. There was something else I saw, and it didn't have that. And I said, wait a minute. You're not trying to slip one on me. All right, so anyway. So I'm filling out all this stuff and how much you make. And I push the button, and 3 minutes later, an email comes and says, your lease application has been approved and your offer is ready to review. Confirm the terms in your Tesla account. Well, I haven't done that yet. I have, like up until, I think March 11th. March 11th, the guy, he said, we want to get this done before March 11th. So we make sure all the prices and everything that you asked for, are preserved. You put your order in there, and I put a hold on it, so they're not going to generate a VIN until, number one, you get approved. I mean, it's amazing. Their systems are so, you push a button and bam, the approval comes up. It's in the email. I said, so how do you find out whether you're approved or not? Well, they send you an email. And I guess the email could say, sorry. So I wasn't going to take any chances. I ain't doing anything until I hear more. Anyway, so I pushed that button that says go to account, and it didn't go anywhere yet. So, but that's my special number, which is the number that's associated with, turn it, reverse pinch this thing. Sorry. Okay, your design, see that your design, Model Y, and it's a 48 vehicle price. 48,440. Can you believe it? I mean, it was like 50. It's like $5,000 cheaper than when I bought the car the first time, that's kind of amazing, isn't it? And you know the reason why? I mean, they could keep increasing and everything. So, our lease payment's going to be around $500 a month. It says here 505 is their estimate. Yeah, so I got that today at 11:02 a.m. I just wanted to check and make sure I got that $2,550 price adjustment. We don't want that to get lost in the shuffle. And it's there. It was some other thing I saw and I wonder. No, wait a minute. I'll show you. Need to be such a pill. But I'm a banker and I always verify and everything. Here we go. Let's look at this. See? They tricked me. Because here it says motor vehicle order agreement. That sounds, see, now that's the same. If you look right here, that number right there is the same. Look at those last three digits, 179. I don't have to remember all those. RN in the front and 179 in the end. It's a good enough for me. Those middle numbers I don't care about. So here we are, Tesla motor order. I'm doing a little expando for you. So 48 plus 2 plus 1 is 50 point. And then you got destination fee, order fee, and go to help fee. And it's 52,630. Well, where's the discount? It disappeared. I knew it. God darn it, I knew it. There's my order number. I keep going all this stuff over and over and over again to make sure. And I got my license renewed yesterday. That was my real estate license. That's always a pain in the neck because you got to take this 14-hour continuing education class. So there's my certificate of completion, which requires a 30-question test. And I passed. They don't really give you a score anymore. They just say you passed. It's pass or don't pass. You don't want to do that, no pass, because then you got to do it all over again. No, we don't want to do that. Anyway, so there's another Tesla. See, now this one, there you go. Tesla. See, Tesla motor vehicle order agreement. On 220, it goes to, 48,000 plus 2 plus 1 plus this minus the price adjustment of 2,500. It brings the to 50,080. And this one was 52,630. Yeah. That's got to get that's the 2550. That was missing in action. And it's the same order number as the RN and the 179 at the end, but it disappeared. Well, we're going to make it not disappear. Because they want that 20, that 2,000. You're going to sign 2,000 to sign that. No. No. This is 250 down. The rest is on the lease. Everything else is on the lease. This is a no money down lease. So crank that through your and make sure it's okay. And I can't get back in there to, I don't know what it says now. I had a guy who called me. He's in charge of everything that has to do with, so, he's very accommodating. He said, any of your problems, I'll take care of them. So don't worry about it. Nothing. I said, okay. So I've sent him all kinds of stuff. Oh, here's an epistle. He won't talk to me anymore, probably after. My only complaints are range and no hump display in the front of the steering wheel, like in the Model S and X. Glancing to the right, away from the front view, is unsafe. So that's one of the things. And baloney with this full self-driving thing. Who needs, I want the display. And even with full self-driving, FSD, the pilot of the vehicle should have adequate visual controls. You should be able to see this stuff. Even though I might sitting there and full self-driving and I chat with Marilyn while we're driving or whoever's in the car, it's fine. But, bottom line is, you're the pilot of the vehicle. You got a steering wheel in the stupid car, right? And if anything comes up, you're supposed to grab the steering wheel, even if you got full self-driving, you're going to whatever. Unless you're in some kind of a vehicle where there's no steering wheel, then you can say that I'm a passenger and my seat should be like a captain's chair. I should be able to rotate it so I can face the people I'm talking to, or turn my seat around and look behind me, But until the cars get to that point, which is probably beyond my expiration date, so to speak, there should be a little hump in front of the steering wheel so that when you're driving, you look through the steering wheel and you can see the speed and you can see the direction and you can see the speed limit. Just a few important items. And looking over this way to see it on a 15-inch display is, baloney. And I said it. That's baloney. Who needs such a display? Well, even with full self-driving, FSD, the pilot of the vehicle should have adequate visual controls, period. They've been promising, number one, full self-driving. The idea of having a central display is that, you're not going to need it. And I think we're going to have full self-driving. That's what he said like 5 years ago. Well, 5 years later, it still doesn't work right. I've tried it. It's making left turns and crossing traffic. It's a little scary. So I'd rather take the turns myself. But I mean, it's got cameras and it's all this computer stuff. But you know what? It's very sophisticated. But at the moment, I'd rather drive myself. Now, if you're riding down the highway, and you're going up I-95, for 4 or 5 hours, going to Jacksonville from here, driving, road trip. And it shows you where the supercharger stations are up the Florida Turnpike or which way you're driving. It keeps you right smack between the white lines. So you really, can just keep a finger on the steering wheel. You don't really need it because it is Johnny on the spot, keeping the car between the lines, which is, with all this, computer crap, it does that very well. But in city traffic with left turns, no. It's not ready for prime time yet. They're supposedly very soon. Well, I've been hearing that for all 3 years I've had the car, and all 2 years before that, before I had the car. All right, that's number one gripe. Now, since this guy is like, he's like in charge of the state of Florida for Tesla, all the vehicles. So he's a pretty serious character, and he knows what he's talking about. I can tell because, I've been a trained scientist, so I know how to listen and I know how to ask questions, and I know a few things or two. I'm told. I read and I'm like a dry sponge. I kind of remember things. I remember lots of things currently and previously. Anyway, so my second gripe, which you can see, I've moved off the hump this way. Tesla defining 300, when you order the car, it says, do you want a regular car or do you want long range, four-wheel drive? Well, sure, I want long range, Now, it adds like $10,000 to the price of the car. And long range means it's 50 miles more than the other battery. Seriously? You're calling that long range? You give me 50 extra miles? 50 miles. Because the other car, without the long range, is like this number instead of 310, it's like 260. This is EPA miles. They do the testing of the vehicles. So, anyway, defining 310-mile range as long range is ridiculous. Remember, one is not supposed to use the top 15% of the battery. And you certainly don't want to use the bottom 10%, for proper battery health. And also, what do you drive into your driveway with, on fumes? No, at least I don't. I want to make sure I have 5 or 10% of my tank, and then the next morning I go out and I get a fill up. You don't float in the driveway with, 2 miles. No, Anyway, so if they don't want you to use the top 15%, you can use it, like if you're going on a trip. But, generally they don't want you to use the top 15%, and they don't want you to use the bottom 10% for proper battery health. So it charges up there, and then you discharge it down to there. But they don't want you to discharge it all the way, because that's really bad for the battery if you run it all the way down. Anyway, so that means 25% of your 310 miles is like lost in space. Well, that's 77 miles of range is basically gone for your everyday driving. Therefore, a 310 EPA range equates to really 233 miles of real range, what I call real range. 233 miles. Are you kidding? And then after you drive the car for, like a year and a half, you lose 10% of your range because the batteries, aren't as good as they were when you first got the car. So there you go. Now you're down to, another 60 mile, because 10% of 300 is 60. Oh, God. 30, sorry. Excuse me. So 233 becomes 230. 203. We want to be really, or 202. Oh, boy. Anyway, I lost 10% of the battery I'm running on right now, and I've driven it for 33 months. I've only driven it 17,500 miles, so anyway, if you take that 233 miles and you divide that by 25 miles for the gallon, that would be the equivalent of a $9.50 gas tank, which shrinks to 8.75 gallons. Now, who would do this? In other words, would you really buy an SUV with a 9.5 gallon gas tank? No, it'd be 19 gallons. It wouldn't be 9.5 gallons. And they had 150,000 gas stations. So it's not like, you run out of fuel and then you fill up. No, you ride around, you fill up at your convenience. And, with this 9.5 gallon gas tank, which is electric, conflating gallons, with range and miles and all that stuff. But, so with my 9.5 gallon battery, it's annoying to have to go to the fueling station, 3 or 4 times a week, because the range is so limited in this stupid thing. So when I get down to 50 miles, I'm looking for the charger. I have one in my garage. It's not always available, but at least once a week it's available, and the other time a week, we got to go into that supercharger station, and the fill up is about $15. By the way, you fill up an SUV, it's going to cost you $60. That's the advantage of electric. Anyway, so I wrote, this is a little epistle I wrote. So in my view, explain this to Elon Musk, please, and his battery team. So I asked him to confer with his battery team, let him know, what I'm saying here. Because what I'm saying there is, this is a guy who's been driving a car for 3 years, not some guy sitting at a desk. And, just because, if you live in a house and you can charge your car every night, do you want to screw around with the hoses and all that stuff, cables, charge all the time? You get out of the car and you go in the house and you have a cocktail, whatever. Anyway, so this is why experienced Tesla drivers want an affordable 400-mile range vehicle. And long range is 600 miles. It's not 400 miles. 300 miles may be long range in regard to every other car that's made, battery, electric car. But that's not, it's like, come on. Long range is 400-mile range. And then you got all these substitutes, so fine. I got a 25% of 400, so now I have 300 miles of real range instead of 233 miles of real range. It's using the same 25% thing. Well, 25% of 400 is 100. So therefore, 100 miles of that range, EPA range, I can't get to anyway, or I shouldn't, for proper battery health, So a 400-mile range vehicle is where they need to be. And if you want to call it long range, then it should be 600 miles. That should be a long range battery. And 400 should be the regular range. Anyway, that's how I look at it. And there's plenty of superchargers. That's not the problem. It's just simply too annoying to stop for fill-ups so frequently. Anyway, so that's what I think. I'm not going to get an answer to that. I am interested in this. See, they go through the thing, and then, the Model X and the Model Y, and you add this. Yes, you see long range, $14,000 they're charging for the long range all-wheel drive. Now, all of that is not battery, but 10,000 of it, I bet you, is the battery. And the rest is, the other motor up front and all that stuff. See here, 52. That should be 50080. They forgot about it. There's no discount here. Price details. No. No. That's not what I agreed to, so I want to get that clarified. See, here's here we go. This is the part that makes you crazy. And then you go right here. Oh, amount due is $20,000 or $2,000. No. I put in $250, and that's all you're getting. You got the acquisition fee and this fee and that fee, and see, look at the lease. It's like $600 a month. That's it's supposed to be $505. Remember? Yeah. So anyway, estimated down payment. Now this number is supposed to be applied across the lease, which is like your tax incentive thing. See here, lease incentives. Yeah. No, you have a lease incentive of that, and then you got the $25.50 in price adjustment, which they forgot about. So I think they can't see images, and I sent the guy images. This guy Mike, very nice. I'm not I'm not trying to be too much of a pill about it. Anyway, so I'm trying to get arrangements for this. They want me to take the new vehicle, a couple months early instead of waiting until June. Would you take it in the end of March? I'm making that up. They haven't told me a delivery date. They said they can get it right away. It may be sitting on the, they may already, because it's such a popular, black, white interior, black. That's it. I mean, you got white interior, black interior. That's about it. And you got blue, black, dark gray, red, and white. We were thinking of red for a while, and then Marilyn said, you know what, I think we're going to get tired of the red. I said, okay, let's do black. Or do black. How about black? You like black? She said, yeah, okay. So black it is. You've been driving a car with black. She likes black cars. And that's fine. The air conditioning is very efficient. So, I put in the license and registration information and they know all about that. And they just have to $25.50 and the $250 down. When I first leased the car, I think I put $3,500 down. Just because I had it available. I shouldn't have done it, but I did it. So now, I paid 33 payments, automatic right from the checkbook. No bounced entries there. So they have experience. That's better than a credit report any day when someone's made 36 or 33 payments. It would have been 36 if I had gone to June, but actually April is my last payment because you pay in advance. So, or May. May. So I got 3 to go. And they want me to take a new car with 2 to go. And they'll just waive the payments. If you actually turned your car in early, they zap you for 2 months. They say, no, you got to pay the 2 months whether you keep the car or not. Well, that doesn't sound like a good deal. I graduated high school and college and, an advanced degree, I think we would say. Anyway, I got 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science. Jeez. Biochemistry and biology with a minor in math. I don't think anyone's graduated that way before, with 142 hours. I remember, boy, that I struggled with German. Yeah, I had 2 years worth of German. That was like, pulling teeth. I mean, the instructor was, marvelous, elderly, European. I don't know if he was German, but he was, he had a perfect German, German accent, I would say. So he was probably German. Nice man. And, but I did not like that class. I barely got by my skinny. Ich bin ein Berliner. No. Oh, boy. Hamburger. That means you came from Hamburg. It doesn't mean the American word for a hamburger. A hamburger is a person from Hamburg. You fool. We put you in the confinement area until you remember that. I remember that. Oh my God. Just for the record. So we talk about, I've talked an hour, so I have to shut up. AT&T had some serious issues because their network, the phones just didn't work. And Verizon says, oh, our network is fine. It's only when you call AT&T customers. Well, we'll find out about that. I had no problem. I think this was, people in South Carolina, they had people there that are being interviewed because of the South Carolina primary, in which Nikki Haley is trying to catch up to Trump, which I don't think is going to happen, but she's going to try. And there's some people raise their hand because they said, anybody here have phone problems? And a few hands went up. So apparently it's spread around at least the South or the East Coast. Anyway, Verizon and AT&T had problems with the networks. I reported no problems, personally. All right, Valentine's Day. I took a picture of the roses, beautiful. Well, they're all it's time to get rid of the roses. They have had their day. But look how perky that one was. I sprayed a little water on it. That's what that sparkle is. Unbelievable. Beauty. You see how it comes out from the middle. Those petals. Yep. A dozen roses I gave Marilyn. It's the first time I've given Marilyn a dozen roses. I've given her everything under the sun, but not a dozen roses. So, here I did a lease, thing, and there's the $24.50 of price adjustment, which brought the cost of the car down to $46. I figured, now how cheap can I get? Know this and know that. $250 down, 36-month lease, $477 a month. You can see right there. Right off of their website. It's the only way you can buy a car is on the website. So you got to, and it says it's worth $377 after your likely savings. Assuming you buy gas at, and energy prices go with the gas prices, they figure you're probably going to save another $100 a month in your fueling charge, which I would agree with. Because I save $50 every time we get a fill up with electricity compared to everybody else who's got to use gasoline. 17-gallon tank at $3.50 a gallon. You can do the math. Ain't cheap. Anyway, so I'm hoping I can get this at least around $500 a month with my, $250 down, 36 months, 10,000 miles. Includes the lease incentives spread along the term of the lease. Includes the $13.90 destination fee. But it excludes other taxes, which are, like minuscule. Anyway, so I'm looking to. So here I got everything included. I added a tow hitch. That's it. Take away $24.50. You end up with a $46,000 car. And that's $477 a month. You get the upgraded interior and you get the upgraded black paint instead of the stealth gray, which is, like dark gray. Brown says, nah, I'd rather have black. I didn't tell her it cost her $2,000. Or she said, okay, I'll take stealth gray. Really, that's what she would have done. Anyway, I'm done. I'm on here yakking for 1 hour and 5 minutes and 20 seconds. And I think it's time to, say, good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock. I think I'm going to have a little special kind of pasta. with a little mushroom sauce on it, which I made last night. I think I'm going to do that for my little lunch break. Is that okay? Can I do that, please? Thank you very much. It's February 22nd. It's Thursday. One more day until Friday. Do work hard. Make your families proud. And we'll